time this is all said and done. So if you live near some of these expected hot zones for ice this week, I would go ahead and gas up the generator and get prepared just in case. There's a whole daggone lot of
Here we go again, Texas. It's so easy to turn the news off nowadays. There's just so much doom and gloom. And, you know, life can be tough enough as it is without having all that added stress and your blood pressure rising when you hear all these stories of what's going on in the world. But we need to make sure that we find a balance between staying informed but not letting it consume us. So one of the mistakes that I've made by turning my news off altogether is a lot of times I miss updates on weather that affects me locally. So here in Texas, I know that the way we deal with cold weather and freezing temperatures is, you know, people up in the Northeast might look at us and laugh, but we're just not prepared to deal with those type of temperatures when they come out of nowhere. Our houses aren't built, our cars aren't built to sustain these cold temperatures, and our pipes just aren't built to withstand these extreme temperatures. So I learned some valuable lessons from some mistakes I made about a month or so ago when we went through that one freeze. I think it was in December, like around the holidays. But nonetheless, I want to take you along with me today while I go through a prep check of things that we can do to better prepare ourselves in the case of a freeze. When it comes to your pipes, air is the enemy. You want to make sure that you cover those exposed pipes because it's not even the temperature, it's the wind chill that's going to do damage. So grab yourself some old rags, t-shirts, whatever it takes. Wrap up the pipes that are exposed outside. Use duct tape, zip ties, whatever it is that you have to do. I'll try to insert a picture of what we ended up doing. It's kind of comical when you look back at it now, but we did what we had to do. In addition to covering hose bibs and exposed pipes outside, you want to open the cabinets throughout your house anywhere where there's plumbing. The heat generated from inside the house will allow the walls from inside to stay warm near the pipes. And you want to leave your faucets dripping, both the cold and the hot water, just a little bit because they're attached to two different systems. A common misconception is that you have to do these steps every time that it dips down to freezing temperatures, but really you only need to do that if it's going to consistently be that cold for a couple of days, 2 to 3 days. Next, you want to get some frost cloths and cover your plants outdoors. It's best to allow them to photosynthesize during the day and get their exposure to the air, and go ahead and water it before the freeze happens. And try, if you're able to use some stakes to kind of build like a teepee over the plants so that you're not putting all that weight directly on the plant itself. And if you're going to have a freeze for a few days, you want to make sure that during the warmer times of the day that you do take the cover off so it can have some time to breathe and do its thing. Oh, and something that an arborist told me, you know, it may look like after a hard freeze that your plant is dead. Give it a month or so, maybe longer, because you'll be surprised. Plants that you think are dead actually end up coming back again. So just be patient with them when the freeze is over, okay? Make sure that your generators are ready to go. Fill up any propane tanks that you may need to fill up. Fill up your gas tanks. In fact, make sure that all your cars are current and ready to go. If you were to have any kind of an emergency situation where you need to flee or something, or maybe your heat stops working or your pipes bust and you have no water and you need to go somewhere, make sure that all the family cars are up and running. And in fact, we have 2 cars that were taken to Firestone today to get some work done so that they're safe to drive. Next, you want to make sure you don't forget about your little 4-legged furry family members. If it's too cold for you to stand outside, it's too cold for them to be outside. and make sure that, you know, if you're keeping them indoors, you've got water dishes for them, because clearly putting water outside during a freeze, the water is going to freeze too. Make sure that you're stocked up on your food for them. Here's Queen Bee sleeping in my laundry basket. But yeah, you want to just make sure that you got your cats, your dogs, whatever animals you have inside during these cold temperatures. Make sure that you have alternate cooking sources if need be, if you lose power and you can't cook. When it comes to food, make sure that you have some shelf-stable options that you can just open up and eat in a pinch. And like if you rely on an electric can opener, make sure you got a handheld or something. A lot of these tops just pop off or whatever, but I wouldn't even rely on that. Sometimes they can break. Just make sure you have a handheld can opener. Let me look around and see what some other food options we have that are ready to go. Things like these pouches of Spam that are in individual portions, things like tuna, brisket, whatever they put in pouches or cans that you can just open and eat. I mean, obviously it won't taste as good as being heated up, but you know, if push comes to shove and you need to eat and feed your family, these are some options. Make sure you're thinking of all the meals, so your breakfast options. Granola bars make a good breakfast on a whim. If you don't have heat, you can just open them and eat them. You know, you can do grits and things like that if you have a way to heat up some hot water. And, you know, just in stressful situations, people, you know, want comforting snacks. So make sure you got yourself some crackers or cookies or something that your family enjoys. Make sure that you have plenty of things to do to pass the time if you do lose power. And if you're stranded at home, maybe you can't get out on the roads. Things to keep you occupied, keep you busy, keep you happy, and relieve the stress for you and your family. So have plenty of books. I've got my prepping and homesteading books, but I also have a lot of my other books that I enjoy reading, and have a bunch of puzzles if you or your family like puzzles. Let's see, I think we've got little coloring books. Yes, adults can color. It's very therapeutic. Any arts and crafts if your family likes to knit or sew. Crossword puzzles, things to keep your brain busy, things like that. I'm sure this goes out without saying, but make sure that you have plenty of winter coats. Make sure you've got plenty of accessories to keep your neck warm, your head warm, your extremities like your hands warm. And I even got these really cool things on Amazon. They're kind of like, not really gloves. Okay, if you grew up in the 80s, I know you know what leg warmers are. These are arm warmers, so they can be worn as an extra layer under your clothing. So let's say you got short sleeves on, but you have a tendency to kind of get cold. You can wear a jacket, sure, but if you're into layering, you know, there are these things that you wear to kind of cover your arms to keep those warm. You know, so a lot of these things go without saying, but if you live in Texas like I do, close to the Gulf Coast, we don't always think about these things. So just something to think about. Make sure you have a lot of extra blankets on hand. One of the most important preps of them all is water. So make sure you're staying diligent about filling up empty water bottles. See, we're just collecting every bottle that we can find and filling it with water so we can store it away. Speaking of water, it might also not be a bad idea to invest in one of these water bobs. They've got different versions by different companies, so they're called different things, obviously, but this is good to have if you think of a big water bladder that you can put. It's a one-time use, but like let's say you get wind that you're going to have some inclement weather, You can put it in your bathtub, fill it with water. The water is safe to drink. Well, I mean, you still want to filter it, but it catches the water, so you're not just putting dirty water in your bathtub. But it is just a one-time use. You may also want to consider getting a couple of tents. We bought a couple of these 2-person tents, so they can sleep all 4 of us. If we were to lose power and, you know, it's just too cold to be in our individual beds, we can each, 2 of us, get into different tents in the living room, just pretend like we're camping and just roughing it, just put a bunch of blankets and pillows in there, and then your body heat can keep you warm. I hope this little prepping list, little checklist of things to do to get ready for a freeze is a little bit helpful. I know I'm kind of a nerd and I kind of just mention things that seem like they would be self-explanatory, but just in case you forgot about anything, or if you want to learn through my mistakes, and I'm sure that I left a bunch of things out that maybe you can drop in the comments, things that are important to do to prepare for any kind of a weather emergency. But I hope y'all are doing well. I hope y'all have a blessed day, and I will be talking to y'all soon. Take care.